Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. My guest today is Richie Billing, a very talented author of several books. Welcome, Richie.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going great. I appreciate you being on my show today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, for those who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about your background. Who are you?
So, I am from a place called Liverpool in the United Kingdom. So, if you have heard someone from Liverpool talk before, you might recognize my accent. It's quite strong. A lot of people can't understand me. Even people from my own country have no idea what I'm talking about. So, and yeah, I thought, Steve, because I was just checking a bit of background on you and like what your history is. So I thought I'd pick three things that I can relate to you, which I think would be quite interesting. So I understand that you have a book called No One Walks Alone, and that's your autobiography. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my autobiography. I actually have written and published 9 now, but that's my
Oh, that's amazing.
autobiography.
Yeah. Well, if you've heard of Liverpool before, anyway, we've got a song. It's like an anthem, a city anthem. It's called "You'll Never Walk Alone." So when I
Really?
saw your name, title of your book, that just struck a chord with me. So "You'll Never Walk Alone," definitely check it out. And it's all about, well, what it represents for people from Liverpool. It's just about never giving up, no matter what is in your way.
No.
Liverpool itself has experienced a lot of adversity over the years, and the people are sort of resilient and they never give up, no matter what is thrown at them. So, yeah, I think that's what your book's about as well, is it?
Yeah, it's about my struggles with alcoholism and depression and anxiety and,
Yeah,
and the things I've managed to do after getting over the addiction thing. So
yeah, that's
it's kind of
amazing.
like a lethargic therapeutic thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I write so much is the therapeutic side. I get so much. So I don't know how to describe it really, but it just gives me so much. And I can't really imagine living my life where writing isn't a part of it, just because it keeps me sane, I suppose.
Yeah. So what kind of books do you write?
I write fantasy mostly. Um, I think that's partly because of the time when I got into writing and the kind of books that I've always read. I love The Hobbit. And then recently, when I started getting into writing, I was reading a lot of Raymond Feist and George R. R. Martin. So I don't just write fantasy books though. I do a lot of historical fiction, bit of horror, bit of crime, bit of general fiction as well. And I've kind of with the next project I'm on, I've kind of merged them all together, and I call it a Scouse crime fantasy. So it's like a real world fantasy, set in my hometown of Liverpool. So
Okay. So how many
yeah.
books have you written now?
Altogether, I think it's six. Six. I've published five. One is very much a first draft. That was the first book I ever wrote. So I just left that one. I thought we'll go back to it someday because I really do like the story, but
Yeah.
I think
Now
it's one
you
of
have a
them.
book coming out, what, in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, that'll be my seventh book. That'll be Pariah's Lament. So that's my debut fantasy novel.
Okay.
Yeah, I've spent the last 2.5 years writing and editing that one.
How many
Um,
do you usually have going on at one time?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't think I have more the capacity to focus on more than one book at a time. If I had more time in the day, I'd just sit here and write all day and just churn them out. But um, I have to focus my time really. So it's just this one at the moment. But I do have a few other books, and a few non-fiction books, which I do constantly promote as well. But I don't try to um, do that in a way that's as least time consuming as possible.
Yeah. I have I generally have about half a dozen in the works. And I
Yeah.
never know if or when I'm going to finish any of them, but
Yeah.
eventually one of them gets finished. So,
It's weird, isn't it? Sometimes, like I found since when I finished Pariah's Lament, I just gave myself a few weeks off, and I was just gonna downtime. And then when it came back to writing, I was just, I don't even know I don't even know if I can write anymore. I completely forgot how to do it. It was so weird. And then I ended up trying a few different things. So I had an idea for like a fantasy novella, and then the Scouse crime fantasy as well. So I was just toying around with different things, but some I found easier to write than others. They almost write themselves.
yeah,
So yeah, it's good. I like what you say, to have a few different projects on the go, because eventually they will all get finished. It's just a matter of which one suits
yeah.
you at that particular moment in time.
And I have been known to just go ahead and merge two of them together to make one, and
Oh,
that's
that's a good
worked a
idea.
couple of times also.
Yeah. So do you tend to write in a few different genres, or are you more focused on one genre?
Uh, I tend to write a lot about spirituality and addiction,
Yeah.
whether it's fiction or nonfiction. That this seems to be where my head is at, where my heart is.
Yeah. I definitely relate to that. I mean, I've someone who's been affected by addiction. Not personally, it was a family member, but the ripple effects of them kind of things have an enormous impact. So I have explored addiction in some of my short stories in particular, and um, yeah, it's a really important subject, because I think with addiction, to finally overcome it, it's got to come from within. So I think
Yeah,
when you've got someone who's been through it and you've got the writing in front of you, it's so powerful as a tool to help you make them next steps to
yeah,
overcoming it.
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's really honorable, the kind of things that being honest about what you've been through to help others. That's like a really noble thing to do, most definitely.
Well, that's part of my recovery, helping others.
Yeah,
That's good for me.
yeah, most definitely.
So, when did you start writing?
I started writing properly, like fiction creatively, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Uh, when I left university, 21, I probably was a bit burnt out, so took a bit of time off, and my friend and we started writing a sitcom. It was all centered around a driving school, so we spent hours and hours just writing this and putting it together. We sent it out to a few places, got a bit of encouraging feedback, but it just fizzled out in the end. And once that happened, I was just a bit. I needed a project, and so that gave me a bit of purpose, and I was lacking a bit of purpose. So at the same time, I was reading a lot of fantasy books, and I was just inspired to give it a go myself.
Yeah,
So I started writing a fantasy, but I needed an idea. That's the big problem when you write fantasy. It's like it's all been done before, so it feels like. So I was trying to find a unique idea, and that took a while. But when it did, I just sort of fell in love with writing. I'd rush home every day from work and just write all night.
yeah.
Um, and it's just been that way ever since, really. That was about 5 years ago.
So, what
What about
advice would
yourself? When
you
did you
give
get
to
into
new
writing?
writers?
Say again, sorry.
What
Favorite
advice would
authors?
you give to
Oh,
new writers?
for, definitely biggest one for me is perseverance. Just persevere, because I think writing is maybe the hardest and the toughest thing, and maybe the least rewarding. Um, depends what you're looking for, but it can be the least rewarding. Um, but at the same time, it's the best thing. It's like the best drug ever,
Yeah,
because you create things from nothing essentially, and
yeah,
you share them with other people. And when I'm starting to go this through now, because this is my first novel that's come out, I've always been sort of haunted by doubt that anything I write people aren't gonna like. So when I'm starting to get these early reviews and now when people are telling me they like different things about the story, it feels a bit surreal because you never really expect anyone to like what you write. So doubt haunts every writer, I think. I don't know if you've struggled with doubt when it comes to your writing, Steve.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt so much now I did initially.
Yeah,
When I write for myself, I don't really write for other people. I just write because I enjoy it.
yeah. That's a big. I think that's one way to get over it. When you're feeling doubtful, you think, oh, no one's going to read anything I've written, and no one's going to like it. I think
Yeah,
when that starts to become your focus, you're straying too far. You're losing sight of why you do it, which
yeah,
is like you say, you do it for yourself because it makes you happy.
yeah,
And I think when you bring yourself back to that, everything's fine and you can carry on.
yeah,
So persevere. It's going to be hard. There's going to be loads of peaks and troughs. You've just got to ride them, work through them. Any little obstacle that comes your way, try and learn from and become a better writer. Always strive to become a better writer every day. Just try and learn something new and trust that you'll get there in the end because you do.
it's a process.
Yeah. And patience is the thing that a lot of us lack, especially in this instant world that we live in.
Yeah. It amazes me how many people say, well, I know I've got a book in me. I can do that. And I think, yeah, well, it's easy to start, but that
Yeah.
persevering thing, that's a whole nother matter.
Yeah. That's the difference between a writer and everybody else, that the writer sat down and finished
Yeah. And sometimes throw away a whole chapter or two and say, well, that's trash.
it. Done that plenty of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you read a lot?
Yeah, and no. Um, in my day job, I'm a copy editor, so it's my job to read. But most of the time, it's like really boring legal based articles, and so I read about 15,000 words of them a day. So when it comes to getting home from work and reading for enjoyment, I'm just a bit burnt out.
Yeah.
And what little time I do get in the week goes to writing. And at the moment, with this book coming out, is it's got a lot of marketing. So reading, it shames me to say, has just fallen out of the pecking order. But I've been trying loads of different things, just trying to slip 30 minutes a day of reading. So I carry a book around with me everywhere now. I've got my Kindle books all loaded up on my phone. So there's no excuse. I try and I try not to give
Yeah.
myself any excuse not to read because it's so important. I think. I mean, what do you vote? Are you a massive reader?
I don't read as much lately as I used to, and I don't know why. I didn't make a conscious decision to not read as much, but for some reason, I just don't read as much lately.
Yeah,
I haven't been writing lately neither, so
it's a strange time for everyone. I think we're sort of stuck in this sort of loop, aren't we? There's nothing's changing, and my weekends and weeks, it's like Monday to Friday is the same day pretty much while
yeah,
we're in this lockdown bubble. And then the weekends, where traditionally you look forward to doing things at the weekends, is actually nothing you can do. So
yeah,
you just sort of get apathetic, don't you, with life?
yeah. Since I started this podcast, it seems to be consuming all of my time and attention. I really
Yeah,
enjoy it.
it's good. I think what I love about podcasts in particular is that, like me and you, on opposite sides of the world, we get to chat.
Yeah,
And it's one of the best things. It's I used to run a bar before I did this
did you?
job. It's like a community center slash bar, so you'd be meeting people from all over the world because it was in a very diverse area. So meeting lots of new people, chatting, pretty dozens of people every day, and you do miss that
Yeah,
definitely, especially in this lockdown. So it's great to be able to connect with people.
yeah. So, what genre do you read mostly? What's your preference when it comes to reading?
I do read a lot of fantasy, so I mentioned some books before. I like a lot of Raymond Feist, the Rift Force Saga. I think it's Rift Force Saga or the Cycle. I think it could be the Cycle. I can never get the name of that series right. So I do read a lot of fantasy. Game of Thrones series, Song of Ice and Fire. They just, I love the escapism and the imagination, and them books just have always grabbed me. And I think we were saying before about not reading that much lately, and I think part of the problem with me is it's really difficult for a book, I find for a book to grab me. If once it does, like I will read a full series of like 5 books in 6, 8 weeks.
Yeah,
But if a book doesn't grab me, I will just struggle through for like the first 50, 60 pages, and then I'll put it on the shelf and forget about it. So that's a big problem with me in reading. But I have been trying to read more of the classics lately. So been trying like Around the World in 80 Days, a lot of Sherlock Holmes, like all the classic books. I've never read them, and I think you've got to read them, haven't you? They're some of the sort of foundational books of modern fiction, aren't they? Are there any what books do you like to read?
I like horror books, or
Yeah,
it's like horror movie. Uh, my first book that I published, 12 Steps Past Hell, is kind of a multi-genre book. It's horror and science fiction all thrown in together, and I
nice.
think that was the one I had the most fun with.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of fantasy in there.
Yeah, I do like horror. I think I've always been drawn to the sort of extremes of things because that's when you sort of get the interesting sides of human nature.
Yeah,
So I always like if you like got Netflix at the moment, is all it is on there is like crime dramas or crime documentaries. I'm just fascinated by the mentality of people
yeah,
and what drives them to do things, and it's so bizarre. It's
yeah.
yeah,
Do you find that each one of your characters are a little bit of you?
that's a good question. I don't think I think there are elements to them, yeah, like slithers, pieces of you do go into your character because it helps when you're writing to write
Yeah,
from experience, I find. So aspects of characters do are taken from me, I suppose, or things that I've experienced.
yeah,
What about you? Do you find you do that?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I work out things that way. I look at it from several different perspectives.
yeah,
This person do that, this person does that, and it helps me to figure things out sometimes.
almost definitely. It's
Yeah,
like that being able to look at the same situation from different perspectives is such an amazing ability.
yeah. And if you get
Um,
really tired of the character, you can kill them off. No big deal.
George R. R. Martin style. Yeah.
So, do you think your reading helps your writing a lot?
Yeah, I do think reading is so important.
Yeah,
If you wanna be a writer and you wanna learn how to write, you've got to start by looking at writers. And it
yeah,
doesn't matter if they're good or they're bad. There's just as much to be learned from bad writing as there is from good writing.
yeah,
So I try and just read anything, literally like signs on shop fronts, what advertisements on buses. My eyes just get drawn to text, and I'll just scan everything, and it's just I don't know. I can't help but read, but it does help. Um, and as a copy editor as well, I think it's there's different ways you can read. There's obviously reading for pleasure where you can just switch off, which is harder to do when you're a writer. But you switch off and you just enjoy the story for what it is, enjoy the way it's written, just appreciate each word and sentence.
yeah,
But then you can read analytically as well and study how that writer has constructed each sentence, how each sentence blends together to form a paragraph.
yeah,
I like to think of writing as sort of like making a bit of like a literary jigsaw, and it's just finding the right sequence of words to
yeah.
complete the puzzle. And Yeah, it's really hard.
One word can make a whole lot of difference.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it's fascinating as well. When I used to be a lawyer at one point in my life as well. And when you're negotiating with people, I always found if there's like a particular string of sentences that you can do, that you can put together that will compel this person to act in one way or the other, how what would that be? And I could never ever find it. But
Yeah,
it's just fascinates me that like it is possible that you can write like the perfect sentence for the perfect moment, and it's just finding that really. So there is, I think writing when you read, sorry, as a writer, you it teaches you how to tell stories too, because there's so many different ways to tell a story.
yeah.
You're talking about perspectives before. I was recently reading a book called Grendel, which is a book by John Gardner, and it's the story of Beowulf, which is an ancient English poem,
Oh, yeah,
which is told from Grendel, who's the main antagonist. It's told from Grendel's perspective, and it's really interesting, and it's a great idea for a book. So yeah, there's so many different ways to tell stories, and you learn that through reading, right? Great authors.
yeah. I've found that I like to write in the diary format, like I
Nice.
like I'm writing a diary, and I've done that a couple of times. That's really interesting.
Yeah, there's so many different forms. I mean, Pariah's Lament is written episodically. So
Yeah,
it's broken up into 10 episodes, which I think initially the publisher wanted to try and release them month by month on an app, which if it would have worked, it would have been quite interesting.
yeah,
But in the end, I got quite attached to this format. And I think if we look at like the younger generation now, they grow up with Netflix as opposed to books. So
yeah,
they're used to seeing things in episodes and series. So I don't know, it's a bit of a marriage between the classic book format and I suppose the Netflix series.
yeah. A
Um,
lot of
yeah,
people do the audiobooks now also.
yeah. Have you dabbled much with audiobooks?
No.
No, never have I. But yeah, something to look into.
So who's your favorite author?
My favorite author is George R. R. Martin, which
Okay.
might seem an obvious choice because he's probably one of the most famous authors in the world. But um, no writer has ever sort of grabbed me like he has. And I always never forget. I was struggling to sleep one night. It's probably about 12:30. So just picked up my Kindle and I was in the middle of reading Storm of Swords, which is the third book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. And then just reading it, really hooked, engrossed. Next time I checked the time, my phone, see what time it was. 7 a.m. Just gone all that time, and I had no idea that all that time was passing. And it's just like, oh my god,
Yeah,
the book, the writing was phenomenal. I could not stop reading it. I
yeah.
was tearing through pages, and I think I think it's the way he structures his books because he writes. I don't know if you've ever read any George R. R. Martin. Any Game of Thrones books, obviously.
The I think my favorite book of all time is Lolita. Have you read that one?
No, I've not read Nolita.
It's one of the classics. It's by Kavanaugh. I forget his first name. Nikolai. I think Nikolai Kamalov or something Russian. And it's a very strange
Yeah,
story. The guy's a pedophile, and I don't really like that about it. But for some reason, the way he tells
yeah,
the story, it's very interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a
One
great.
of them that just sort of grabs you.
Yeah, yeah. It's the way he writes. It's really, really good. He
Yeah,
writes it like a love story, like he's in love with her, and he makes it sound all so innocent. But as you're reading it, you're thinking,
yeah,
she's 12 years old, but still you're captivated by the book. It's a
yeah.
great story.
That's yeah. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah,
It's definitely the way stories are told, and with George R. R. Martin, the way he structures it, he has a massive cast of characters. So he'll one chapter will focus on one character, the next chapter will focus on another character. So the way you structure that novel is you leave character A at a cliffhanger, move on to character B, come back to character A, leave character B at a cliffhanger as well. And then so the reader's constantly wanting to know what happens to these characters. And it's just a great way to structure a book.
Yeah. Yeah, and it keeps it fun. You know, if I don't have fun, if I'm not having fun writing it, I don't expect anybody else to have fun
Yeah.
reading it, you know?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So do your friends and family members read your books?
Yeah, some of them do. I'd never really push it. I don't really want to force someone to read something that they haven't picked up and just made the decision that they want to read themselves because I just don't think they'll enjoy it. So I'll always tell them that I've got a book out or do you want a copy or whatever. If they don't push it, then I don't push it because I
Yeah.
want them to enjoy it. But yeah, a lot of my family and friends do check it out and support what I do. Um, yeah, so I always appreciate that. What about you?
One of my sisters got very, very angry at me after I published my autobiography.
Oh, really?
She claimed that some of the things I wrote about didn't happen. I said, well, they may not happen to you, but they happened to me.
Yeah. Is it all okay now?
She got over it, I guess.
Oh, nice one.
So, do you write every day?
Yeah, I do try to write every day. Like I say, it's become a habit. And
Yeah,
if I go a few days without writing, then I get really antsy. I need to do it. It's a bit of a drug. Not a bad drug to have, to be addicted to, but
there you go. There you go.
could be a lot worse.
Now, were
But yeah, what
your
about you? Do
parents
you find the
writers?
time?
No, I don't write every day.
My dad. Oh no, yeah, I know. It's just time is a massive factor for me. Though, like if you work full time, you get home, take the dog for a walk, cook your dinner. It's like 7, 8 o'clock, and
Yeah,
you don't have that much time. So yeah, I do. I have like designated days each week where I'll like devote time to writing and making sure that I do it. So I just have to be a bit pragmatic. But no, my parents, my father actually was a football or soccer player. You might know him as soccer players.
yeah,
Um, so he was quite athletic and sporty. Um, my mother is a really good poet, actually. But it's only something that she does in a sort of pastime. But yeah, she's always supported me. Like when I said to her that I wanted to quit my job as a lawyer to be a writer, a lot of parents would have said, like, what the hell are you doing? No chance.
yeah.
But she supported me. She just said, yeah, if that's what you want to do, you should do it. So you can't ask for more than that, really. Um, that's what you want. My dad as well supported me with the writing as well. He's never been a barrier in any shape or form. So yeah, I've been quite lucky that I've had parents that I've said, yeah, go on and do it. You've got nothing to lose and see what happens. And here I am.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
just said,
having a
yeah.
hard time with your accent. I'm your accent, and you probably are with mine.
I can. Sorry, it's probably me. I can understand you fine. It's just
Okay.
I probably mumble quite a bit or talk quite fast, so I need to slow down. That's my bad. I'm sorry.
I've always loved English accents, though.
Yeah, I love your accent. It's got such a great lull to it.
Yeah, it seems like we really kind of speak the same language, but sort of not so much.
I know. It's just the speed I talk. I talk too fast, especially when I'm relaxed and comfortable.
Yeah,
I'll start talking too fast, and
yeah,
that's when people can't understand me.
yeah.
So
Now, I've
slow
tried to
down.
learn Spanish a few times in my life, and it's the Spanish people talk so fast. I can read it better than I can understand it because they talk so fast.
Yeah.
So, do you keep up with politics and current events?
Yeah, I do try to read the news a few times a day, see what's going on in the world. Bit sick of the news at the moment, though. just COVID every day, isn't it? But
I know.
yeah, not much you can really do about that, is there? What about you? Are you quite
I
politically
do. I
aware?
do. Yeah. I ran for US Congress last year, so it's kind of
Oh, nice.
that I'm kind of a news junkie, I guess you can say.
Yeah. And how did you find that campaign?
It was an interesting experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting. Uh, Not something I want to do again.
No. Is it quite cutthroat, is it?
It is. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a very nasty game.
I know.
Yeah.
Which isn't what you want when you're just in it for the right reasons. You just want to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. But really, it's all about money and
Yeah.
connections. If you got plenty of money and you have the right connections, you're going to win. Otherwise, you're not.
That's democracy for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's a fair play to you for running though, because it takes a lot of effort to make that decision and put all that effort into to running in the first place. A
Yeah.
lot of people wouldn't bother. They just moan about it. So fair play to you for trying to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I think I got it out of my system.
Yeah. Oh well. So have you got any other political plans in the future?
No, no.
No.
I'll stick with talking about it.
Yeah.
So, what are your hobbies? Do you do when you're not writing or reading?
Not writing and reading. I do like computer games. I like to play just any old game that entertains me, to be honest. But less time for that nowadays. Gotten quite into cooking. So yeah, living a few years on my own. Um, and a girlfriend prefers it when I cook, let's just say. So yeah, I do cook quite a lot, and I have gotten really into the whole process of it, to be honest. So yeah, I spend a lot of time cooking, but I am quite boring now. I just whenever I got free time, I'll just write because I know I don't have that much free time. So I never really find myself just relaxing
Yeah,
completely. I literally sometimes I'll work in my office until I fall asleep in my chair, and I was like, oh, probably should go to bed now.
yeah.
But what about you? Have you got any hobbies?
This is my hobby, podcasting. It's just something I really enjoy. It doesn't cost me any money, and I don't
Yeah,
have to. I'm not trying to make money off of it. I'm not trying to impress a million people. I'm just having fun. I get to talk with cool people like you, and I enjoy it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's become
exactly.
my hobby.
That's why I do it as well. It's great fun, and
Yeah,
it's a different medium as well from writing. It's a nice break from writing.
yeah. So tell us how people can get in touch with you and how people can buy your books, and give yourself a big shameless plug here before we
Well, you can head over to my website, which is www.richiebilling.com. On there, you can find loads of free books, both fiction, non-fiction. I do write a lot about how to write, and a lot of that is based on great advice I've come across from much better writers than me. So I do share a lot of what I find. Loads of free short stories on there too. Um, if you want to learn more about Pariah's Lament as well, I've got a dedicated page on there. And if you sign up to my community of readers too, you'll be able to get the first 4 or 5 chapters of Pariah's Lament emailed right to your inbox. So yeah, head over there if you want to learn a bit more.
okay. Well, Richie, I've enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for being on my show. Maybe we can do it again sometime if you're willing.
Yeah, most definitely. Maybe you can come on to the Fantasy Writers Tool Shed and
Okay.
talk a bit about writing. But
Okay.
it's been great being on here, and it's been lovely to chat to you as well.
Okay. Well, you have to see. I think it's pretty late there, isn't it? About 10 or 11 o'clock p.m.
No, it's not too bad. 25 to 9. So
Okay.
yeah, we're still early. Yes, not falling asleep in the chair.
Okay. Well, you have a good rest of the night, and thanks again for being on my show.
Very welcome. Thanks
Bye.
very much.